Welcome to the Who Killed WCW Recap Show, Episode 4. I am your host, Master Mike Ambrose, and last night was the season finale, the series finale of the Who Killed WCW show on Vice. And let's start out with began. The end was getting closer, though they didn't know it at the time. It's 2000, late 2000. People at Turner, mainly Brad Siegel, want it done like they don't even want anymore. Especially him. He even admitted he don't like wrestling. People at Turner, obviously he's the main one. He's the main of all the people at Turner that wanted, no longer exist because he was not a wrestling fan. He didn't care for wrestling, and he thought it was too lowbrow at times. He took he had it when it was hot. He kept it on, but that was it. Sorry if I was a little tongue-tied like that. It's just I gotta get on track here. And not only that, we had the AOL Time Warner merger coming into play, which was pretty much the end. Because when that merger happened, AOL, the one that bought Time Warner, they made Ted Turner vice chairman, but he lost his power. Ted Turner, it's his own network. He bought it. They had the name Turner's. They still call it Turner Network, but Ted Turner had no stroke anymore. So, he was the main guy that loved wrestling on those Turner networks. If he had still had power, they still would have had it on there. This goes back to something I recall years ago Kevin Sullivan brought up when a Time Warner merged with Turner and Time Warner merging years earlier. That it should have been Turner buying Time Warner, but Time Warner merged with they should have been merged with Turner. Turner had the power, but instead Time Warner got the power. So after that, it was Ted was starting to lose his power by 2000. And, he's the vice chairman, but like I said, it's just a title. And, he's in the corner of the office. Nobody talks to him or anything. He just has, the title, basically, like I said. And of course, a lot of network, the stock price went down when they merged with Time Warner, which I'll get to later. Maybe next episode. And not only that, pay-per-view buy rates and house shows drop in buys and attendances. They went, 85, I forget what much, but it was 85% drop from one uncensored to another with Hogan and Flair still in the main events, would prove maybe they went with the pat hand too much. You can't do it that. You got to put new people on top, which WCW had a hard time doing. With a few exceptions at times, but, that goes. Well, going into that, Eric Bischoff attempts to buy WCW. Early 2001, after they announced that the merger with AOL Time Warner is set, Eric Bischoff teams up with Brian Bedol and Steven Greenberg, two men that ran Fusient Media Ventures. They were the one that started Classic Sports Network, which turned into ESPN Classic, which I don't think ESPN Classic is around anymore. ESPN Classic Sports. I'll have to check, but I don't think they're around. That was the only good thing about ESPN, the Classic stuff, but that ain't around anymore. And, they planned, everything was going good. They were meeting and planned to run Vegas at the Hard Rock Hotel out there. They were going to put a ring on top of a garage, and they're going to tape Nitro and Thunder there. So they were going to keep their residency in Vegas. Well, they're going to have their TV shows them in Vegas. So it would be their residency for the TV shows. I don't know about house shows or pay-per-views. I know they had, South was their big loyal following in the Southeast, so maybe they would have run in there more for house shows and pay-per-views. But pay-per-views, they could have ran one in Vegas or big size arenas, because I don't think they were ready to do stadiums by then yet. They had to build their image brand back up to positive standing with the people. Fusient announced they had bought the company in January 2001, and they were going to stay on the Turner Networks, which I thought was good, because TBS and TNT had wrestling on there for, I think, 29 years, so keep that tradition going. But then in March, Jamie Keller comes in, and obviously, he just passed away a couple days ago, and R.I.P. to him. R.I.P. Rest in peace, him and his family. The guy did not like wrestling at all. Like I say, he did not like it, and WCW was canceled off the Turner Networks. And how that was going to go. WCW, without that, the deal with Eric Bischoff gets a call when he's on vacation. The deal is Fusient falls through. He gets a call from one of his partners. They said the deal is done. And the guy said the deal is done. I think it might have been Brian Bedol. He said the deal is done. And Eric goes, that's great. But he goes, no, you don't see it. The deal fell through, meaning that they didn't own the company. And by that point, Eric Bischoff has said on record that WCW went out the TV's worth $20. So it's like, you need that TV. And then that comes in where WWF scoops in and buys the company. And a man by the name of Stu Snyder comes in the picture. Now, he worked with Turner Home Entertainment about 20, 30-something years ago, 30 plus years ago. And after that, obviously he became friends with some people there, and he has a friendship with Brad Siegel, which I'll get to in a minute. Then he goes to WWF, and he becomes the president and COO at the time. It's like around the late 90s to early 2000s. He's the president and COO. So he has a friendship with Brad. He used to talk to him, and I think they may have went to school together, college. But, they were talking, and I guess Stu broke the deal with Siegel and Time wanted to sell to WWF, and sale was announced on March 23rd, 2001 online. If you went to WWF.com at the time or WCW.com, you'd hear about it. And there were people at WCW who thought, oh, this is a work, that, it's just Eric doing stuff. But no, it was real. They were really selling it. The Final Nitro, of course, Panama City, Florida, on March 26th, 2001. It was quite a day. Vince McMahon would open the show, appears saying, I own WCW. I bought my competition. And, obviously he goes to the show where he's, like, firing people off. He's not bringing certain people back. Like, Jeff Jarrett got fired on air, I think. And he said about Lex Luger, the Lex Express run out of gas. We took shots at other guys like Dustin Rhodes, I believe. No, Dustin Rhodes would come back to the company as Goldust. But, he was kind of, talking about not bringing certain people. Obviously, he fired Jarrett because Jarrett walked out on him years ago. But, and after that, starting the show, we had Booker T versus Scott Steiner for WWE World Heavyweight Championship, which is a good match, considering that Scott Steiner was in rough shape. He was the champion at the time, but he was in rough shape. And Booker T, obviously, he's in great shape. He was in his prime then. They had a good match, real good match. And Booker T won it, and, he felt good, And obviously, Booker would come into WWE a couple months later at the King of the Ring 2001, which I'll get to in tomorrow's show, part 2. And the finale, the final match on the show, which technically you can say is the main event, even though it didn't close the show, end the show. Although I think it ended the show on, it was the last live thing on Nitro. Ric Flair versus Sting is the final match on TNT and any of the Turner networks. And I guess it's apropos. They started it. They started a big thing when Clash of Champions won with Flair, which was a great classic match where Ric Flair put Sting on the map. Clash of Champions won on TBS, which went head-to-head with WrestleMania 4, and I was watching Clash of Champions 1. That was just an awesome match that day. I've watched WrestleMania 4 since, but that Clash of Champions 1 match with Flair and Sting was awesome. Simulcast with Vince on Raw, at Raw in Cleveland, and Shane McMahon at Nitro in Panama City. And it was historic, to say the least, and that's when Shane McMahon said, yes, there is a McMahon on the contract, but it don't say Vince. It says Shane McMahon. I own WCW. So that was that. You've watched it. They had behind-the-scenes stuff with some of the talent, the people that worked there. Not just the wrestlers, the office personnel, the video equipment people, the people that worked on the set, production crew and all that. And, people lost their jobs from that merger. It wasn't that sale. It was kind of bittersweet. People were crying and stuff. It's like, what are we going to do? It was like a close-knit. Everybody was close-knit back there, backstage. And unfortunately, egos got out of control, and that's how WCW is no longer in business. Yep, just a rough go of it for them. But hopefully, hopefully the people understand what happens when you merge corporations can cause through that. And, people work in the same company trying to backstab you. That can happen. I think, another thing that, thing was, the company wasn't, obviously wasn't making a lot of money. And I think, sometimes they didn't elevate talent when they should have when the business was hot, because can't go with the pat hand all the time. You got to elevate new guys on top. Product was kind of getting stale at times. Toward the end, they actually tried with Booker T and Scott Steiner on top. They were trying to. And you got a lot of young guys. I think AJ Styles even debuted on WCW TV. He actually did in the Cruiserweight Tag Team Tournament. Now you look at him. Consider him one of the greatest of all time. Best of his generation. Not just him. You had guys like... Well, he was the only one there. I think you had... Christopher Daniels showed up there at the end. I know, he only appeared once or so. And There was a lot, there's a lot of talent. A lot of those guys that showed up there, and they ended up going to start TNA, which AJ Styles was part of that nucleus. So Jeff Jarrett started TNA and all that. Obviously, years later we'd see guys. I mean, I'll get into it on the aftermath, but we'll talk on the next show tomorrow. Get into happened after the sale and what went on when WWF owned it and the main people involved with the last years of WCW. But yeah, it was quite a show, quite a special. I mean, I think they did a good job, Dark Side, for the most part. I mean, I thought it was a good job in $7 Entertainment. Dwayne Rock Johnson and his ex-wife Dini Garcia run it. I think it was a good show. I think it told a lot of good stories. A lot of people that I thought Conan came off real well. He seemed to know a lot. DDP, Diamond Dallas Page was really good on it. Booker T, I thought was good. I thought a lot of the people were pretty good. You had people like Dick Cheatham, Jamie Angle, Neil Pruitt, who all worked for WCW. They were behind the scenes there in the office working it out. I thought Guy Evans, who wrote a great book, WCW, brought a lot of info in. And Eric Bischoff was right there. He brought WCW up. Without him, WCW may not have the heights that did. I think, I think the second time around, it would have been interesting to see what he had with his own cold control. No corporate stuff involved. But you had Bret Hart in there, Bill Goldberg. They're still kind of going bickering back and forth. Kevin Nash was down there. Yeah, it's a good show series. I recommend watching it if you have access to Vice on demand. It's on, so good show to watch. All right, okay. This is the final part of this show. I got part 2 tomorrow. After tomorrow, I'll talk about it, and I'll have an epilogue of what I thought of WCW as a whole, because I watched it for many years, dating back to when I was a kid in Florida, when I used to live in Florida. I started watching that company around, say, 86, when I first moved to Florida. It was NWA, actually. Before it was known as WCW, they were owned by Jim Crockett Promotions, part of the NWA, National Wrestling Alliance. So I'll get into tomorrow on the show. All right, have a good night. Take care. Bye-bye.